I'll go ahead and count you guys in. We'll go in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Vicente Quevedo. I'm the Deputy Director for the City of Albuquerque's Office of Equity and Inclusion. Thank you for joining us this morning. The purpose of today's webinar is to have a Rent-to-a-Refugee panel discussion. The Rent-to-a-Refugee campaign is something that we've been working on for some time. And the purpose of the campaign is to encourage property owners in Albuquerque to offer rental properties to refugees by sharing information with them that can address any questions or doubts that property managers may have when considering renting units to refugees. There's been a number of refugee families that have been resettled here in Albuquerque following the events in Afghanistan. And as we all know, Albuquerque is an immigrant and refugee friendly city. And so we have welcomed these families openly to our community. But as part of that, that welcoming, we also need to assist them with finding stable housing. As we know, stable housing is the one of the cornerstones, right, of being able to be a full member of and participant in society. If you have a stable housing, everything else stems from there. And so the purpose of our discussion today is to bring together a number of advocates and organizations that are going to help us present on that topic, and also talk about the benefits of renting to refugee families, and also ways that property owners can connect with Lutheran Family Services specifically, as they're the designated agency that's working to rehouse and resettle families. And so what we'd like to do is go ahead and start off with a quick video, a 2-minute video that will introduce this topic and provide some more context, and then we will go to our speakers that will provide us with more details through brief presentations, and then we will finish up with some question and answers for folks that are participating in today's session or listening on today's session. So I'm going to go ahead and start the video now, and we will go from there. Thank you. Again, thank you for joining us, and we're glad to have you here.
To support
I am a father.
I'm a community advocate.
I'm a photographer.
I'm a husband.
A personal banker. An honors student.
I'm working hard to support my family in here in the United States.
I work hard to live a better life.
To provide quality education and good health care to my children.
To give my special needs son a good future.
I am working hard to improve myself in a new career.
I love my husband.
I love my mom.
I love soccer.
I love to help people.
I love America. I love this country.
I care about my future.
I care about my family.
My community.
My son's future.
I care about equality and education for everyone.
I dream of a peaceful world.
To have a house, to have a nice car.
Working together, helping each other, no discrimination.
I enjoy to read books.
To travel around with my lovely wife.
Meeting people and making new friends.
I value family and I value friendship.
The community that I'm still living in.
Culture, respect.
I value freedom and my independence.
I'm your friendly neighbor.
I am your photographer.
I am one of your fellow students.
I'm your guard and I'm your security.
I am an immigrant.
I am a refugee.
I'm an immigrant.
I am a refugee.
All right, hoping that provides a good intro to the discussion today. And so what I'd like to do is go through some quick introductions of our panelists. I'll go ahead and introduce them, and then we'll turn it over to our first speaker. Today we have Fareed Sharifi with Lutheran Family Services, Corey Ann Sanchez, also with Lutheran Family Services, Tori Jacobus, who's the Director of Civil Rights with the Director of the Civil Rights Office here with the City of Albuquerque, Mohammed Munir, who is also with Lutheran Family Services and has a great story to share with us about his experiences as a refugee. And also James Lynch, who is a landlord here in Albuquerque, that will talk a little bit about some of his perspective from a landlord perspective. So what I'd like to do now is go ahead and turn it over to Fareed Sharifi with Lutheran Family Services to start us off with today's presentations. And again, everybody, thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you, Vicente. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today to talk about the refugees that have been arriving here in our great city. And thank you again for this opportunity to share with you some of the information about the families that are kind of coming here to our city, and then some of our challenges in our efforts to resettle these families in Albuquerque and surrounding areas. So first and foremost, I wanted to talk a little bit about the refugees and how their journey kind of starts, where they start and how they get here. So refugees are basically individuals that have left their home country, their country of origin, for fear of persecution, for reasons of race, religion, nationality, or membership into any political groups or social groups. So they're in a third country generally before they leave their home country, go to a third country, apply for a refugee status. And what that process looks like, it's a pretty extensive process. They complete an application with UNHCR, which is the United Nations High Commission on Refugees. Once they apply for a refugee status, there's multiple interviews that's conducted by UNHCR. And in that interviewing process, there's background checks that are conducted. They interview the families over and over for consistencies and just making sure they know who they are. And there's no danger to any other host countries or anything like that. Upon the approval of that application, which can take anywhere from 2 years up to 18 years. So it's a very, very extensive process. Again, upon their approval of their refugee application and status, a host country will then works with UNHCR and determines how many refugees that host country will take. So in the United States, the president of the US kind of makes that presidential determination. Each year, that number is determined, the number of refugees that the country will take. And based on that number, then the actual number, for example, if it's 50,000 refugees for that year, they allocate that to different parts of the world where the refugees may be residing and waiting for resettlement. So once the host country again determines that the 50,000 number is what they would like to proceed with, the interviewing process starts all over again. So the host country will do their own biometrics, background checks, and vaccinations and health screenings and everything abroad before their case is ever approved and ready for departure. Upon the confirmation that their case has been approved and it is ready for departure, the US State Department works with 9 national agencies here in the US. They're called VOLAGs, voluntary agencies, to resettle these families. Lutheran Family Services, Rocky Mountain, is a part of a national organization, which is Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Services, based in Baltimore, Maryland. So as one of the 9 VOLAGs, we are an affiliate of LIRS, and our offices here, we have offices here in Albuquerque, Las Cruces, Fort Collins, Greeley, Denver, a small footprint in Ogden, Utah. And we are proud to say that we have some Afghan refugee families in Santa Fe. So in our effort to resettle families here in Albuquerque, we've also began to resettle some families in Santa Fe. At the time that the families again are ready for final departure, we get notification that these families are going to be coming to Albuquerque. So generally, there's a couple of weeks of notification that the families are coming. So Lutheran Family Services, as an agency, we immediately start looking to secure housing for them, which is kind of the first important step of this resettlement effort. And that's what today's discussion is all about. The families that are going to be coming here now they're coming under a slightly different category, which is the APA program, the Afghan Placement Assistance Program. So that timeline has been, as far as the resettlement timeline, it's expedited a little bit because they're already in country. They've been in the military bases since about August, September of 2021. So on the military bases, these families again have been vaccinated, health screened, interviewed, biometrics done through the State Department, the FBI, and all other law enforcement agencies as applicable. So in our effort to resettle them here in Albuquerque, the #1 pain point for us is housing, and that's where we need your assistance and support here today. I will pass it on to Corianne Sanchez here in just a couple of minutes, and she'll talk more about the housing and some of the challenges of us trying to find housing in the post-COVID. It's not even post-COVID, I guess we're still in the middle of it, but post the COVID moratoriums and everything else that has been restricting, bottlenecking the housing, not just here in Albuquerque, in Santa Fe, Las Cruces, and really across our nation. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Corianne Sanchez.
Thank you, Fareed, and thank you to everyone for having us here today. My name is Corianne Sanchez, and I am the Community Programs Manager here at Lutheran Family Services. I'm honored to be here today. My job is to work closely with our amazing team of individuals that we have that are experts in the fields on everything from getting our clients jobs, from getting them into their children into schools, helping us identify their doctors and getting them into their appointments, career pathways, micro lending to build their credit. Employment is a huge one that we work very extensively on as we navigate different employers in our community and around the state who will offer a wonderful way for our refugees to resettle and be gainfully employed. We just have a variety of wraparound services that we take a lot of pride in providing to the community as we take in the initial reception through graduating from our programs, the various refugees that we get from all around the world. And of course, right now, our focus is on the Afghans and the crisis that we face with them arriving in our state.
All right, thank you, Corianne. Was there any other items like specifics that landlords should be aware of, maybe when you're reaching out to them or they're working with you?
So the biggest pain spots that we face right now is, of course, post-COVID, there were so many landlords that were burned during the process. There were a lot of people that didn't pay their rent and were unable to pay their rent and for great amounts of time. And so our landlords right now, many of them are electing to get out of the business of property management. Those who elect to stay in it are really looking at those applications that come across their table and wanting to identify and make sure that people are going to be able to pay their rent. And so a lot of what I'm doing is going out and speaking to these landlords to help them to understand a lot of what Fareed has just mentioned, about refugees and how they came to be in America and understanding the foreground of it. And then also explaining our programs and how our program helps them in establishing their foundation and really gaining their footing in our community so that they can become productive Americans, just like the rest of us in our society. The one thing that I do get a lot from landlords is just, how are you going to pay my rent? How are these individuals going to be able to pay their rent? And so the best way to explain it is each of refugees is coming over with money that they're granted from our government. It's about $1,225 per individual. And we're able to utilize this money to pay their first, their last month, and a security deposit straight out of the door towards their apartment and their permanent living situation. When that happens, simultaneously, we have somebody working on employment that is going to get them their footing and get their job situated so that immediately they're going to be able to start paying their rent once the first month has been paid. And we work effortlessly to make sure that the landlord understands, as well as the tenant, all of the parameters of the lease, and that we put them in a lease that's comfortable for them, and that they understand that our clients fully are educated and understand their responsibilities and how to pay their rent.
All right, thank you very much for that. I'm sure a lot of the items you just touched on, everybody that is, you know, a potential property owner that could rent to refugees is probably wondering those same questions. So thank you for going into detail on that. And so what we'd like to do now is shift over to Tori Jacobus with the Office of Civil Rights with the City of Albuquerque. And we really do want to provide more context, right, about renting to refugees and maybe dispelling some of the myths. So I'll turn it over to you, Tori, to talk about that. Thank you.
Hi there. Thanks, Vicente. Good morning. I'm Tori Jacobus. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I run the Office of Civil Rights for the City of Albuquerque. The Office of Civil Rights was founded by Mayor Keller in 2018, and we serve to preserve, protect, and promote human rights and dignity. And we do that through providing technical assistance and training to businesses, educators, students, individuals, anybody, including the refugee community and landlords who work with the refugee community. The outreach, the technical assistance is actually my favorite part of my job. I love to talk to groups like this. No group's too small or too large. And the topics include really anything you want to talk about that comes under the umbrella of race, civil rights, social justice, and discrimination. And so for this group today, I'm going to talk a little bit about housing discrimination. My office also works on policy review and change for both the city and at the state level. So we've been active recently in trying to help change some of the landlord-tenant laws in order to provide better protections and better clarity, both to the tenant and the landlord. We also provide information and guidance to anyone who has questions about discrimination laws. And then we accept complaints regarding discrimination, and we seek to resolve those complaints through settlement or mediation with the alleged wrongdoer and the person who believes they've been harmed. We find frequently that the harm or alleged harm comes about because of lack of information, and we eagerly jump in to provide the information to resolve the issues. We do not provide direct representation, so I cannot act as a lawyer for anybody who calls my office. Instead, we provide information and direction. I can't force a landlord to undertake any action. Again, what we try to do is come to a collaborative agreement that meets the needs of all parties. I don't give direct legal advice to any individual or organization, but again, I can provide direction and information regarding public policy and the state of the law and help you apply it to your facts. The areas of protection under the Albuquerque Human Rights Act are housing, public places, and employment. And an example of housing discrimination is refusing to rent to a Black individual, but offering that same home to the next non-Black individual. Public places, an example there is failure to provide access for persons with disabilities. And an example in employment is failure to promote women because they are women. Discrimination occurs when an individual is treated differently because they are a member of a protected class. The protected classes are race, color, religion, sex, national origin or ancestry, physical handicap, or any other unlawful discrimination. And the language in our ordinance is old, so it says physical handicap. I interpret that under state law to mean disability, which includes mental or physical disability. I'm looking forward to updating that language when I have an opportunity to bring it to City Council for an update. Although all of these protected categories can apply to persons who are refugees, The three that will most likely apply are race, national origin or ancestry, and disability. And so race involves treating someone unfavorably because he or she is of a certain race or because of personal characteristics associated with race, including hair texture, skin color, and certain facial features. And that treating someone differently includes not renting to them, giving them different terms and conditions for rent. So perhaps because they are Hispanic, you require a higher deposit for them. That's illegal under city, state, and federal law. Another example is perhaps in your advertisement, you say no Afghanis allowed. Although Afghani is not a race, that is another example of treating someone different. National origin or ancestry is the next protected class that most likely intersects with our refugee population. And that refers to the country of an individual's origin or the country from which the individual's ancestors came. It also includes perhaps a particular accent, again, physical characteristics, or name. And then lastly, I include disability because people from all cultures, all communities may have disabilities, and that intersects with everything else that we're discussing today. And so individuals are defined as having a disability if they have a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more life activity, individuals who are regarded as having such an impairment, and individuals with a record of such an impairment. So that's a really brief summary of the laws regarding fair housing in Albuquerque and across the state and the nation. Albuquerque's laws just mirror what the state and the federal government have. You have also already heard from some of the panelists about the process of renting to refugees, and you'll hear more from the panelists who come after me. What you're largely going to hear are the benefits of renting to this population. It's important to remember that refugees are provided support in every step of the process, which results in tenants who are better equipped to honor the rental relationship. The resettlement agencies assist with finding permanent employment. They support their clients in the leasing process. They teach them about the terms and rules of lease agreements, including when and how to pay rent. And they also coach their clients on their responsibilities under leasing agreements. This is something that the general population doesn't have access to, and it is indeed a benefit to renting to refugees. I hope that today's discussion is helpful to you as you move forward with either renting to refugees or supporting refugees. If I can provide any further assistance, please contact my office at 505-768-4595, and I'll put that number in chat for you. Thank you again for allowing me to speak with you today.
Thank you very much, Tori, for that information. And one of the other things that I wanted to mention in terms of the City of Albuquerque's role, we are supporting this effort, and that's the role that we're playing. But as Tori mentioned, the resettlement agencies really are the heroes here, and we do want to uplift the work that they're doing. And with your support through opening potential vacancies to refugee families, you'll also be supporting this effort. What I'd like to do now is turn it over to Mohammed Munir. He's with Lutheran Family Services, but he has an amazing story about how he arrived in this country and can provide a context that none of us can on the team. So really want to turn over to him for this amazing story. So thank you, Mohammed.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being with us today, and thank you for inviting me to share my refugee story, as I did before with many churches and as well as some TVs. I'm going to divide my refugee story in 4 sections or parts. The first part would be a little bit introduce myself and my family and my background. And then I will talk about how to get here, how to get to United States, and the services and the assistance that I received from a resettlement agency and also from some government and non-government agencies. and how to manage the life and the challenges and opportunities that we have in this state for housing and how to rent. So the first part, let me introduce myself. My name is Muhammad Munir. Originally, I am from Afghanistan, married, and I have 4 children. I have a bachelor degree in biology from Kabul University, which is one of the recognized university in Asia. And later on, obtained my master degree in biotechnology from Delhi University in India. And it was in 2009 up to 2011 academic sessions. I worked as an associate professor at Kabul University for more than 15 years and taught different scientific subjects. I have written several books and some scientific articles in Dari, Pashto, as well as English, which has been already published in scientific journals. I work with many organizations inside the country. It means when I was in Afghanistan, and I had extensive teaching experience. I had some scientific trips abroad of the country, such as India, Pakistan, and Germany. And the reason why, how do I get here, why I'm here, because between 2004 and 2009, for 5 years, I worked as an interpreter and translator with the US Army, especially with the United States West Point Military Academy, and also with the US Air Force Military Academy mentors and professors, in order to build or to establish the same model of academy in Afghanistan that we already did that, and we called National Military Academy of Afghanistan. And also I work with them, especially with the Dean Office, in order to develop academic curriculum and teacher training programs. So I got my SIV visa for myself as well as my family as a privilege because of working with the US Army as an interpreter. So my immigration journey to United States, especially to New Mexico, started since October 2017 with my family members, and I have been living in this city ever since. You know, immigration from one country to another country and adaptation to the new environment, it's not easy in terms of culture, education, security, social, and other things. So it will take time to get started. And in order to start it, everyone should set a goals in their own life. And achieving of these goals, it will requires a careful of thinking and organized planning. So when I arrived to United States, especially to Albuquerque, as I told to many media, social media, that the first people that I met in the airport, they were from Lutheran Family Service Office. And I received a lot of assistance and help from all the governmental and non-governmental charities and resettlement agency. For instance, let's start it from Lutheran Family Service Office. They already set up an apartment for me and for my family, and they prepared necessary supplies and equipments. Even they prepared a culture food for me and for my family, that we are not feeling far away from our home. So they provide a better situation or condition of life, such as they started right away to enroll my children at school, finding a job for adults, and also sending us to ESL classes in order to improve our English languages. and also they take care to our Medicaid and health condition as well. They provide us cash assistance, food assistance, and also all the case manager, they work to apply for these benefits for us. Another agency that helped me a lot, not me, all the refugee and immigrant, that's Human Service Department provided and processed also a medical insurance that we called Medicaid, and also they provide us a food consumption card, which is we called ABT. They already set up medical appointment for us, medical screening and assessment, and also visiting with our primary care physician, our PCP, and also medical checkup. That's worth mentioning for me and for my family. Come to the job. I know finding a job at the beginning was a little bit difficult for me because I have been taught for many years at the university and working from somewhere which is the entry level. It was a little bit difficult for me to find my dream job. But just I started after a while waiting. I start my job from Walmart, and I have been working over there for 2 years, and I was a cashier. So working as a cashier at Walmart, it was a good experience for me to be more familiar with U.S. culture, and also it was a good opportunity to improve my English language as well. So after that, I start working with the Catholic Charity as an interpreter for the Dari and Pashto languages. And also I was working as a bilingual in order to organize the social and information and education program for Afghan community. Currently, right now, I'm working as an education coordinator at Lutheran Family Service Office. And I was very interesting because I grew from this community, the Lutheran family, the resettlement agencies, and other government and non-government agency helped me and my family to grow, to stabilize my life. So I was interested that it's my turn that use my knowledge, use my experience for other people, they're coming as a refugee and immigrants. So on the education side, or as an education coordinator, most of the time, we have a different program. We want to improve the quality of life and education of immigrant children. We are working on different aspects like having ESL classes in order to improve their English. We have a summer school for students, for refugee students. Also, we have RCIP program, which is Refugee School Impact Program. And beside that, we have other programs that we are going to improve and help children, immigrant children. So also, it is worthly mentionable that Lutheran Family Service Office, city, and other governmental agency, they have such a nice program, how to purchase a house, how they can help immigrants to be able to purchase a house. They have such a program of $20,000 down payment or down payment assistance through HomeWise. For those people, they are the first time home buyers. So, and in this case, that was I able to receive like $28,000 from HomeWise program. And also I was able to save some amount of money. And right now I bought a purchase a 2-story house, which has a 3-bedroom and 3 bathrooms. And we are very happy with our family. But before that, the challenges we used to live in rented apartments. And it was very difficult for refugee and for immigrants to provide and to pay the monthly rent. But having this such a program, or by buying a house and paying in advance, we are able to be very comfortable, and now we are very happy with me and with my family. And finally, I would like to thank all the government and non-governmental charity and resettlement agency for their help. And I know everybody know the current situation and the event in Afghanistan, and the people they're evacuating the country, or those people they already evacuate the country. They really have a bad situation, and most of them, they have some mental problems. So we kindly request from all property owners of apartment complexes, houses, and charities organization to please help Afghan refugee in this crisis, ongoing crisis or situation over there, to take it easy, to make it an easy condition for the refugee to rent their houses or their apartments. That was my message to all landlords, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mohammed, for sharing your story and providing all that background, and also highlighting all the support that is available to families that are being resettled here. Even though there's a lot of work to do, we do have those supports available. And yes, echoing that message again to landlords, you know, to be open to renting to these families. If you're interested in connecting with Lutheran Family Services to offer any available rental properties, that would be the next step from here. Their phone number is 505-933-7032. Their website, www.lfsrm.org. And so what I'd like to do now is turn the mic over to James Lynch. He is a local landlord here, and he would like to talk to us about some of his experiences working with families here locally. So James, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me. I am pleased to be able to present my experience with working with new refugees and through LFS. My experience with them has been pretty wonderful and seamless. First of all, I'm an architect, and I own and manage 7 rental houses. They are detached single family houses, and I run them as investment property. I currently am renting 2 houses to Afghani refugee families. They're both pretty good sized families in that they have a husband, wife, and many children, and they are both families of 11 and 6 members. So as I said, it's both husband, wife, and children. There's no extended family, although there could be, and I would accept in the future that also as a rental condition. The children ages range from 20 to a newborn, 2 months. They're lovely families, very kind, culture, and are clean and very respectable. I started renting to the refugees in November and December of 2021. This is the first time I've dealt with LFS, Lutheran Family Services. It was during their very busy period that I made contact with them. I don't know, seemed like it may have been the busiest time period. They had a lot of new refugees, and they had a lot of needs to find houses and or apartments. I had heard of them through various newspaper articles that discuss their mission and as helping Afghanistan people as refugees to find housing in Albuquerque. All of my houses are in Albuquerque, along Wyoming, either side between Eubank and Louisiana. And I'd like to point out that the neighborhoods have been very receptive and enjoy the refugees as neighbors. I have one neighborhood where the neighborhood has collected a lot of items and given it as donations to the family, and they including even a car and bicycles and toys and clothing, and they even have an interpreter that has called and discussed things from that family with me, which I appreciate. Let's see, I at the time that I called LFS, I had 2 houses open. When they asked to see the houses, we set an appointment, date, time and date were kept. They Corian visited the houses several times, and quite a few members of LFS were involved in the inspection and discussion. And when the family visited and accepted the house, we sat down with LFS and their interpreters and had a detailed discussion of what the requirements were. And of course, I had to waive typical background information, and I accepted the statements from LFS that these were people that had been allies in Afghanistan and helped our government in our effort over there, and as proof of the qualities that these people possessed. And I read the agreement and sat down for an hour or two like I would with any renter, and went, as I said, in detail on what the amount of rent was, the date of the required payment, which is today, by the way, and because it's the first, and I pick up my rent from everyone, and the same with these 2 houses every month, so that I can visit and discuss. And usually I get fed pretty well by the family, both families. really good food, by the way, and it's a very friendly atmosphere. And I'm glad to see when I go that the kids all go to schools, and I notice an advancement in their ability to use English. And they all seem very happy being in Albuquerque and in America. And the husbands, as Korean and Fareed had pointed out, someone needed to get jobs, and the husbands very quickly obtained jobs. And I'm not sure what they do, but they seem to be happy and able to produce the work, and they're happy with the money. And several months, LFS had to help supply me directly with the rent. And they supplied the utilities and earnest money. It was very much a common experience. All of my houses until then had been with Section 8 housing. So I was used to the experience of using a third party, although I would say none had the large involvement that LFS does. They provide furniture and articles for day-to-day living that help make it easy for people to enjoy the house. And I have had absolutely no problems. It's been a pleasure to deal with LFS, and I look forward to in the future when other houses come out of offering those houses. I have nothing but positive experiences typical of high quality renters, and that's an important part to a landlord. These people are modern people. They are looking for a good future, and hardworking, very clean families. Even though they're large, you can't find anything that needs to be clean. The houses are always in great repair. So besides the deviations of the typical background that check that I had to waive, everything was very much the way a landlord likes to operate. So the whole time period was from initial visit to signing the lease 2 to 5 days. It moved forward well. The inspections resulted in the renters accepting the houses and signing the lease agreement on the day of inspection, which is pretty typical. LFS began furniture moving that day and night and worked throughout the night, and pretty close to finished the next day. So they were very prompt. The renters are the same as any previous quality renters. I would say they're probably of a better caliber than a lot of people that show up. I'm impressed at the quality of this relationship. And I think LFS can give them a lot of credit for having developed a great approach to helping refugees get into American culture. So I thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, James, for providing that background information and your experience working with LFS, and again, highlighting the support systems that refugee families have when they arrive. I know that we have some questions in the chat, and we're going to move into question and answers here shortly. But just to recap, you know, we really do rely on community members like everyone that's listening in today, who are willing to, you know, open a home, right, to refugee families in need of support to start a new life in this country, as Mohammed had given us a lot of background on that. The resettlement program offers the potential for a mutually beneficial partnership between area landlords and refugee resettlement agencies. In this case, for Albuquerque, Lutheran Family Services is the key one. And, you know, again, some of the benefits, there are economic benefits for the families, for the city as well. The reliability of tenants, as James had talked about, third-party support from resettlement agencies, and also all the contributions that these families make to our community, and also the other supports, you know, through the city of Albuquerque, where we have an Office of Immigrant Refugee Affairs here, and Beatriz Valencia is the liaison for that office, and she's done an awesome job working with families as they arrive, coordinating with Lutheran Family Services, and so we're all in support of this effort, and hope you are as well. I would like to move into some question and answer now for the panelists. And the first one I'd like to start with, I think Fareed, this one will probably go to you. There's a question from Colton Schoen asking, it says, how many families is Lutheran Family Services needing to resettle into homes in the metro?
Thank you, Vicente. So we currently have about 125 individuals that we're looking to house. So some of those individuals are just single cases, single males, and we have some family units of husband and wife and some children. And the family units can, I guess, comprise anywhere from a family unit of 3 up to like 10, somewhere along that. So based on the availability of the apartment or the home and the number of bedrooms, we could still, I'm confident that we could partner on this and utilize whatever space that's available, whether it's a 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms.
Thank you. And so you were saying individuals, not families, when you said 100 and
those are about 125 individuals. Yeah,
individuals. Okay.
About.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. And if anybody that is listening in or on the webinar has a question, please go ahead and put it in the question and answer section, and we'll be sure to get to that. What I'd like to do is just again go to panelists here just for some recap, some follow-up questions that folks might be wondering about but maybe haven't put in the chat, and I'll kind of go round robin here. And the next question that we have here, let's see, I'm going to go to stick with Fareed if you can. And one thing that we didn't touch on in a lot of detail, but maybe want to just recap here in terms of refugees. What is a refugee in terms of, you know, how would you define that, just so people can have a better context? Fareed, can you provide us with that?
Sure. Yeah. Great question. Thank you, Vicente. So so refugee again. There would be, you know, the refugees initially when their case gets approved for refugee status, they're going to be in a third country outside of the U.S. So they would generally be outside of the U.S. before their case gets approved. And once they come here, there's already the U.S. government essentially invites them through the presidential determination letter that kind of sets the cap on the number of arrivals. So the refugees, when they come here, they'll get an employment authorization document. They'll get a social security card. Generally, they'll get a green card within about a year. So there's different, you have the SIV, which is the special immigrant visas for interpreters and translators of individuals that have worked abroad in Iraq and Afghanistan with the US military forces. So there's the SIV, and then you have the refugees. Both are kind of have been exposed to similar conditions abroad for persecution and such. But their cases, although they differ in the timelines of when they obtain their documents, essentially the needs are the same. So we also, through our office, we also help asylees. So we have the asylum seekers. The asylum seekers are essentially individuals or families that are with very similar needs. They're actually here already in the US. So the asylum seekers are already in the US where the refugees are not. They would be in a third country, their case gets processed, then they get a visa and US State Department works with them to get them here.
Okay, and a question from the chat as well, Fareed or Mohammed. Where are families staying until they find permanent housing in Albuquerque?
So they are staying in a transitional housing. So we currently have them in transitional housing, which has its own limitations. So I think the intent is this: as soon as we can secure the permanent housing, we would love that. We'd love to partner up on that. I think, as Mohammed had mentioned, during the course of the resettlement, the families are, they're exposed to a lot. They've kind of left everything they've ever known in their life behind, and they've experienced loss and trauma and things like that. So I think as a community, I think when we come together and find a place that they can actually call home, I think that's kind of the biggest step in their integration process here in our great state with the housing piece.
Thank you very much. And yeah, as you mentioned, that's temporary, right? There's a limit to how long they can stay there as well. So that's why we're really engaging with this effort to bring awareness to that need. And also the timing right now, even though we know that there's a shortage of available housing, nationwide, and especially in the city, now that things will start warming up again, this is a time of year when people, if they're able to move, will. And so there may be vacancies coming up. And so we'd like to encourage everybody to connect with Lutheran Family Services to see what their options are. And on that note, I wanted to ask you, Mohammed, based on your experiences, what were some of your experiences with landlords in Albuquerque? We heard from James as far as his perspective on being a landlord. What were some of your experiences when you were trying to find housing?
Thank you. My case is a little bit different because I came in 2017, and that time, the number of arrival was very low. So we had enough housing available. The price of renting was low, but compared to current situation, due to a large number of arrivals and also increasing the rent and also unavailability of housing or apartment complex, it might be make difficult for the new refugee to resettle very soon. And that might be the reason they're staying for a while in hotel or restaurant or Airbnb. And I think another factor or reason that affect on housing side, most of our current refugees or arrivals due to lack of documents. Most of them, they are not receiving their social security card in the right time to get a job, or employment authorization card to get a job. So might be if they don't have a employment authorization card, they don't have income. So sometimes it might be difficult. It's a challenge for refugees and also for landlords to rent their houses.
Thank you very much. And on that note, also, James, I know you gave a really good overview of your experience. Do you have some advice for property owners or managers or management companies here in Albuquerque when they're looking or interested in coordinating with Lutheran Family Services? What's some advice you might have for them?
I would say, expect to deal with up to 5 to 6 specialists that LFS provides. They might bring several different families, and it's really just a pretty common showing experience. And I don't think that there's any deviations from what you expect. The only thing that didn't occur that usually occurs quicker was I don't pay any utilities. So the refugees had a time period of waiting till they got their requirements, like a social security card, to be able to switch utilities to their names. But I was reimbursed for each monthly bill right away that I paid. So that might provide a little angst, but LFS took care of it, and I had no problems. Everything's been switched to their name, and it wasn't to their fault that they couldn't get it. It was just requirements of P&M and the gas company.
Awesome, thank you very much. And once again, highlighting those support systems. And on that note, Fareed and Corey, and can you talk just briefly about the process if a landlord, once they do call you and are interested in supporting the effort, what happens after that initial call?
Thank you. So once we get calls that are routed to me regarding housing initiatives, then I already have a list of individuals and families that I'm looking to place. And so it's just a matter of looking at what is available from the various landlords that have something available versus what the needs are, whether it be where they're working, do they need to be near a bus line, how many rooms are available. And I'm going to be, coordinating and speaking and calling back all of these various landlords once they reach out to me, and we'll just vacillate what they want to offer, what their premiums are, their lease arrangements, and we'll exchange our contact information and take it from there.
And just to add to that, Vicente, I'm sorry, to add to that, so we will, we'll definitely, we'll inspect the home we'll do a safety check on each and every home. We just want to make sure, as part of our regulations, we just want to make sure the heating and cooling and lights and everything, and the smoke alarms and carbon monoxide detectors and all items are in order. Once we've kind of done the initial inspection, we'll connect the family with the landlord. We'll do that first, home visit, the inspection. And as James had shared with everyone, the process is it goes fairly quickly. If it's not a fit for a specific family, again, we have numerous families and individuals that we could place in there. So it's our intent to just make this as seamless as possible for the landlord. We have a wraparound services that's provided to the client here in the office. So the employment team works aggressively with the family. We do resume development and job training and mock interviewing and everything. There's already numerous employers that are in the city that have been reaching out to us wanting to employ refugees. So I don't anticipate any major barriers to employment or anything like that. And to put the minds of the landlords at ease, again, we would provide the first month's rent, last month's rent, and security deposit from the get-go. Or sorry, apologies. We work, we would have the access to interpretation. We would facilitate the lease signing. We would just anything that the family basically needed. We provide the beds and mattresses and chairs and tables and everything. So anything that the landlord, even in month 2 or 3 or 4, if they needed to communicate with the families in the event that any kind of support was needed, we would step in and support. Pre-COVID, something to just share with everyone here. Pre-COVID, our normal timeline for employment for all employables and the family from date of arrival to employment was about 2.1 months. from date of arrival to employment. I think even with COVID and everything, we're sitting at about 2.8 months. And sometimes, and that's on average. We've had individuals working in the first month. So again, we have an entire team of individuals in-house that provides intensive case management. We provide financial literacy, business education, cultural orientation. We do wraparound services to make sure that the integration process is as smooth as possible for the client, and then also for the landlord and employers and everyone involved.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Fareed and Corey, for all your hard work. And you know, the call to action here, of course, is for landlords to potential landlords and property management companies to reach out to Lutheran Family Services as they have resources to help families. And it sounds like they're doing a lot of the upfront work, or all the upfront work, to assist in placing families. So that takes some of that burden off of the landlord for sure. And so I did want to turn back to Tori. I know that you had given us some background on some of the support that the city provides. What might happen if somebody comes to your office and needs some support? Let's say they think that there's some discrimination happening or something along those lines. What's the process for that?
Thank you, Vicente. So the process varies a little bit, but what happens is initially we do an intake. So we try to find out what exactly is happening, and we ask questions to bring out more information. And then depending on what we hear, we let the person know what the next steps are. The most direct is that we file a formal complaint that involves some paperwork, and that paperwork goes to the landlord. And once that paperwork goes to the landlord, that starts the process. The paperwork details what the tenant says was wrong. And then we offer settlement to the landlord. And if the landlord and the tenant want to settle, we can do it informally through just a series of conversations, or we can also do it through a formal mediation process. Another City of Albuquerque office offers mediation. If both parties do not want to do settlement, we then proceed to an investigation, and we identify if the law was broken and how it can be remedied. There's also a step I skipped. A lot of times once we tell people about the complaint process, they don't actually want to go through that process. They just want information. So we'll spend a bit of time talking to the parties who contact us, letting them know the status of the law, what the possibilities are, including filing a complaint with us or with the state or with the federal government. And then many people take that information and they go back to the landlord and they share that, and they're able to resolve it without going to a complaint. There are also people who contact us and they haven't been discriminated against, but some type of wrong has happened. Maybe it's a violation of landlord-tenant law. Maybe it's a violation of the housing code. And so in those cases, we try to connect the party with the other entity that can help. With code enforcement specifically, we do a soft handoff. We call code enforcement, let them know the problem that we were contacted about, and then connect them with the party. And when we contact code enforcement, they tend to respond pretty quickly. So you can always call us if you're having trouble getting through to them.
Thank you very much. And I think that's key, right? It's also about information sharing. It's about communication, improving that. It's not always just about filing a complaint and going through that process. So that's very helpful. I did want to highlight a couple of comments for everybody that people have been sharing with us, and a really good one. This is a statewide effort, right? We're focusing on Albuquerque today, but this is also a statewide effort. Santa Fe, Las Cruces, and also around the country, but this is happening around the country, and there are resources from the federal government that have been channeled through each state to support this effort. So it really is something to just to broaden that scope and help everybody understand this is a national program, a national need for these families as well. I have seen a couple of comments. I'm not sure if Fareed or Corianne or Mohammed can answer this. There's some issues with keys to mailboxes, and keys to mailboxes. I'm not sure. It's from Eileen in the chat there. Is that something you can address?
Absolutely. Eileen, if you can, please reach out to Corianne and we can mitigate that. Yeah, anything case specific for any please reach out to us and we can support you on that.
Okay. And I believe that the number was placed in the chat earlier. I think that Corianne, you had put that in the chat. Yes, phone number again, 505-933-7032. And Reed and Corianne can help you with that issue. So thank you for reaching out. Okay, so I think we're just a quick time check. It's about 17 after 10. Those are the majority of the questions. I'm not seeing any other ones come through at this time. So I would just open it up to the panelists. Any closing remarks or comments that you guys would like to make to continue to highlight the need for this effort?
Sure. Thank you, Vicente. Yeah, I think my closing statement, I guess, would be just thank you. I would like to thank everyone for their time and effort. I think the city and county and state have just been nothing short of amazing, and all of our amazing community partners. Everyone has really been very welcoming to our Afghan families, and not just the Afghans. Lutheran Family Services has been here in Albuquerque going on 10 years next month. So we've been resettling, refugees from all different parts of the world, and I'm really proud to be here living in Albuquerque with so many individuals that are caring and passionate and wanting to help the stranger. So in this current effort, I guess, with the Afghans, again, because of the housing crunch and the timelines, more than ever, I think that support is needed from the community. And I feel like if the landlords would give us that opportunity to provide even more details about the support bases that's available and the assistance, I think it could be a win-win for the landlord. The refugees are very hardworking and clean backgrounds, background checks, as they've just recently been vetted by the U.S. government. They're really anxious to start their new life here in this country. They're just wanting to work and put their kids in school, and they're just looking for a chance and an opportunity to put their lives back together. And I think as a community, we can make that happen. I think we can make that happen and make that transition a little smoother for them. So thank you for everyone's time and consideration of our ask.
All right. Trying to see if there's anybody else. One thing real quick, Fareed, that you just touched on as well, James touched on, is the background check item. I want to make sure that we are clear on that. The reason why that's waived is because those are already done at another level. Is that correct? Or what?
So, yeah, thanks, Vicente. So I think that the issue is what happens is generally when you conduct a background check, so when they do a rental history check, there's no rental history, right? So that's where the challenges have become, is that because they're new in country, so even if they have a social, they do a background check via social, nothing comes up. It's because they're just brand new in this country, so they're looking for that opportunity to start their life. So that's where that comes. But from the U.S. government side, from a criminal perspective or anything like that background has been checked before they're, they've been vetted, thoroughly vetted, and they're kind of connected to us for additional care and services.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think it's important to clarify that, because when people hear a waiver, sometimes they might think, oh, that means nothing's being done, but it has been. The check has been done. It's just, as you mentioned, they're new to this country. Nothing would come up even if a landlord or private landlord ran their
Correct.
social in the system. So thank you for clarifying that. Okay. Any other comments? Mohammed, do you have any closing comments for us?
Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you that led me to share my experience with everyone. But regarding housing, just I have something to share and kindly request from all landlords, if possible, to take it easy. The security background check, as Fareed mentioned, that since they're new brand refugee, they don't have a social security, or that's if possible. And also, if possible, to waive some security deposit for new arrivals, or at least having some discount for 6 months until they get a job. That will help a lot the refugees to stabilize their life.
Thank you so much, Mohammed, for that. Those comments. Yes, and anything that can be done to assist in, helping families resettle. Any little thing that an owner can do in addition to renting to refugees is greatly appreciated. Lastly, I just want to say that, you know, we also work with a number of other partners in the city that assist refugees. The Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs with the City of Albuquerque, if you go to our website, then you can access more information there. Also, LFS, Lutheran Family Services, their website has a lot of good resources there too. And please feel free to reach out to them and connect if you have any additional questions, you know, very specific to your property or unit, you know, if you're just wondering if it would qualify or have any questions along those lines. And I do want to highlight also that we being the City of Albuquerque, as well as Lutheran Family Services, we have been receiving a lot of calls since this effort began. Lots of positive comments from folks just wondering how they can help. And so that's part of the reason why we put this session together. And we're happy to facilitate more sessions for folks if needed on this topic, because there are still a lot of families, as Fareed mentioned, that still need to be housed. And so I think on that note, if there's no other closing comments or anything that any of the panelists want to highlight, maybe that they missed in their presentation, then I think we'll go ahead and close the session. Again, my name is Vicente Quevedo. I'm with the Office of Equity and Inclusion. And I want to say thank you to Fareed Sharifi, Mohammed Winier, Corian Sanchez with Lutheran Family Services, also Tori Jacobus, Director of the Office of Civil Rights, and also Beatriz Valencia with the Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs, our liaison. And she's been doing such an awesome job along with everybody else on connecting folks for this effort. James, thank you so much for being willing to share your experience as well. As a landlord, you can speak directly to that. And so we really appreciate you being here with us today. And so with that, I think we'll go ahead and close out the session. Thank you again for being with us, and stay tuned for more information.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.